Good afternoon. I am honored and humbled to be here today as a speaker. I've been privileged to serve on the board of the Scholarship Foundation for many years now, and especially privileged to interview students like Miguel during the annual scholarship application process. I have been to enough Community Leaders Luncheons to know that whatever I might have to say following a student speaker is likely to be pretty much of an anticlimax. So how do you follow such a poignant and inspiring story? There are countless scholarship recipient stories where the theme is the same. Education is the way up. And for those of us who support the mission of the Scholarship Foundation, it is the reason we are here today, to celebrate the more than 50 years of making dreams of a brighter future come true. Miguel, where are you sitting? There you are. Miguel, it takes courage to stand up here and tell your story. I thank you for that. You have a bright future ahead of you, and I expect to see you standing up here one day as a community leader to tell us about your next chapters. Now, my story spans quite a few more years than Miguel's, but then I was a late bloomer. You all likely know me as the chairman and CEO of Montecito Bank and Trust. I've also served as the past chair of the Scholarship Foundation and on this truly wonderful board for many, many years now. And over that time, I've been privileged to interview more than 100 scholarship applicants and listened to their inspiring stories. Listen to student speakers at our monthly board meetings, annual dinners, and this very luncheon. I'm always moved, as I'm sure you are, by the stories of these young men and women, and have marveled at how each of these students value their education and its power to transform their lives. I've wondered what it is exactly that enables them to be transformed by their education, to go out into the world and become the next generation of leaders. Is it their strong belief that education makes a successful future possible? Or is there just something in them that would have propelled them to a successful future without the experience of college? When I asked Barbara and Tim at the Scholarship Foundation what exactly they hoped I would speak about today, it was a simple enough prompt. What does education mean to you personally, professionally, and as a community leader? Well, I've always believed that education has the power to transform, and have observed that in every facet of my own life. And as I sat down to put my thoughts on paper to share with you today, I use this as an opportunity to examine my own belief in and my personal experience with education as transformational. That exercise of reflecting on my own educational experiences and the subsequent outcomes over the last 55 years helped me to connect the dots of my own story. And so I thank the Scholarship Foundation for prompting me to examine my own commitment to education and its transformative power. That's the place to begin, and ultimately an opportunity for me to answer my own question. Education has been my lifelong go-to tool for inventing and reinventing myself personally and professionally. And I have pulled that tool out of my toolbox on many occasions, always when I was at a crossroads. I'm here today because I made a decision to continue my education. After early retirement from a career in banking, I decided to pursue a PhD at UCSB. And although I did not earn that degree because of a change in my life circumstances, I earned something far more valuable. But it was my decision to reinvent myself through education and all the educational experiences that I've had in my lifetime that made my current incarnation possible. So now a little background. I was raised in a middle-class family where both of my parents worked. My father came home from World War II and took college courses, but never had the opportunity to finish. My mother earned her bachelor's in sociology and became a social worker, not because she was driven by a passion to serve, but rather because her mother, who had a 6th grade education, believed that education was the best way to ensure her daughter, a polio survivor with a disability, could always take care of herself should she not be able to find a husband. And thanks to a full hardship scholarship, my mother graduated from Immaculate Heart College in Los Angeles. That story of my mother's success became an expectation for me and my sister that we would indeed attend college. In 1967, I was a 13-year-old 8th grader on a path to graduate from my Catholic grammar school and move on to the local Catholic high school. My parents had no particular plan to prepare me for college, nor a plan to pay for that college education, just a commitment to making higher education a reality. My 8th grade teacher recommended to my parents that I take an entrance exam to a local private Catholic high school, an all-girls college preparatory institution. The tuition was out of the question for our family, but she persuaded my parents that I should take the exam anyway. I did, and being the excellent test taker that I was, indeed it was excellent test taking, that's it, I did well enough to be called in for an interview. The end result was a 4-year, full tuition paid scholarship to Marymount High School in Los Angeles. It was a stretch for my family to even afford the books and uniforms, but they made the commitment. All I had to do was earn a B average every semester. And at the time, that scholarship seemed like a pretty big deal to me, and I felt very responsible to excel in school and not to let anyone down. But that high school experience was so much more than getting through high school and meeting all the perfunctory curriculum requirements. Because of that scholarship, I was exposed to experiences and people I would never otherwise have had the opportunity to know. Those influenced me and my life in ways I could never have imagined. And for as long as I can remember, I was driven to be the best at whatever I took on. If I believed I didn't have what it took to be the best, I was easily discouraged from trying. As a painfully shy, gangly, uncoordinated kid, it was no surprise that I chose academics over sports. School came easy to me, and I excelled at science, math, and English. I didn't know what I wanted to study in college, but I did know I wanted a career that allowed me to make a difference. And I will suppose you will be surprised to know that I liked being in charge. Leadership, very bossy. Leadership opportunities and extracurriculars came in the form of music, drama, and student government. Sports scholarships to college were not in my future for sure. I graduated at the top of my class and was accepted to pre-med at Stanford and UCLA. There was no scholarship foundation to provide advisement about what school might provide the best options for someone like me, or about how to secure scholarships. I entered UCLA in the fall of '67 because it allowed me to live at home and spared the college room and board expense. I worked part-time to pay the tuition and books, and by the spring of 1968, I had to face the reality that I had made a terrible choice. Confronted with real failure for the first time in my academic life, a career in medicine seemed unattainable. I withdrew and decided to go to work full-time, and that's when I began my banking career as a teller at Security Pacific National Bank. Work was a whole new world, and I liked it. It came easy to me, and there was so much to learn. I knew I'd go back to college. I needed the paycheck, so Santa Monica City College was the perfect choice. School at night, work during the day. I later transferred to Cal State Northridge, where I earned my Bachelor's of Arts in English, and still worked for the bank. Now, I've always had a special admiration for people who seem to always know what they wanted to be when they grew up. A doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a teacher. Those people seem to be filled with purpose as they pursued higher education. But I suspect there are more folks out there like me who secretly had no idea what they wanted to pursue, but believed that they would find it in college. I felt like college was the place to invent myself, to discover who I was going to become. Imagine my disappointment when graduation arrived and I still had no idea what it was that I was meant to do and how I was going to make a difference. I continued my education, but in the business world as a management trainee at Security Pacific Bank, and I remember the interview for that program well. When I was asked what I hoped to accomplish in my career at the bank, after a few minutes of thought, I answered her, "Well, I guess I'd like to be the CEO." Now, I'm not sure I really knew what that's what I wanted to be, but it seemed like the best job in the bank and a way I could make an impact. Now, banking is truly an accidental profession. Studying English Lit wasn't exactly going to put me on a course to success in banking, but it did provide me with the discipline to research a question, to think critically about the topic, and deconstruct it to make meaning. As I charted my course through UCLA, City College, and finally a degree from CSUN, I learned a lot more than how to write a paper or pass an exam. I learned about what I was made of. I enjoyed working full-time, and over the years I was fortunate enough to keep learning and growing. In 1984, I had an opportunity to attend Pacific Coast Graduate School of Banking, and even though it was a real hardship with 2 small children, it felt like something I had to go for if I was going to be successful in the career I had chosen. There were only 4 women in my class of 200. The value of banking school was immeasurable in my industry. It was a badge of honor and gave me a sense that I could compete for advancement with anyone in the organization, male or female. I went on to manage significant client relationships, lead groups of bankers, started de novo private banking region, and I even had a chance to invent a new business for the bank, developing credit scoring models to make capital available to small businesses. Providing more than $4.5 billion of credit to business owners helped make their dreams come true, and it also helped me see how I could make an impact. The value of that banking school education was not just the learning and the opportunities for advancement, it was also the confidence that came with the accomplishment. And when I needed to know more about the areas I was working in, I did the research. I sought opportunities to educate myself, even if it was informally. I found that what I really loved to do and what I was really good at was solving problems, business problems, employee problems, organizational design problems, breaking down big issues into manageable parts and then putting it all back together into something new. Although that learning was not available in a formal educational setting, the belief in the value of educating myself propelled me to want to find the answers on my own. And years later, after many years of consolidation and automation in the banking industry, the things I loved about my work, the opportunity to implement innovative ideas, the chance to help young bankers grow and develop their skills, and the ability to make a difference for our clients, those things just weren't possible anymore. I felt irrelevant. I certainly wasn't one of the best in my business, and I wasn't making a difference. At a crossroads, I did some serious soul searching. I was trained to be a banker. I was educated to be an English teacher, and somehow I had to find a way to use both of those experiences to reinvent myself for the next chapter. I retired from banking at the ripe old age of 48 and went back to re-educate myself, earning a master's in English at Cal State Northridge. I was thrilled to be accepted to the PhD program at UCSB and excited to plan my second career at the university. After 2 years of study, I was ready to propose my dissertation topic when my husband became seriously ill, and it became necessary for me to reinvent myself one more time. I put my studies on hold and went looking for a banking job. That's what I knew. And that's when I found Montecito Bank and Trust, and what has ultimately been the most important and valuable educational experience of my life, as well as the most rewarding. None of it would have been possible if I hadn't made all those stops along the way. For me, education is ultimately about recognizing your full human potential. It is a springboard to the next best version of yourself. In the process of earning that education, you are in the process of becoming someone better, someone more confident in your ability to conquer the challenge, someone more comfortable in your own shoes. You learn what you're made of. Did you get accepted to that dream school, but your family just doesn't have the resources to make that work? Well, what's the next best option? City College? State University? And in making that choice, you are choosing to invest in your dream. It may take longer, but it will be worth it. Did that second choice not turn out to be just what you had hoped? Too isolating, school just too big to navigate, and still it cost too much money? Well, face the music, adapt, and find another way. City College and a full-time job until you could make attaining that university degree a reality. There are many circumstances that conspired to bring me here to this place and this time. I realize that I'm here today not purely because of my education or my drive to succeed or a passion to make a difference, but perhaps a confluence of all of those and a few serendipitous events, one of which occurred in 1967 when a generous stranger who believed in the value of education made a scholarship possible for me. That gift made all the difference. My education was a platform for opportunity. It was an anchor when things didn't go as planned. It was the gift of a scholarship that gave me confidence. It was a gift I gave myself, and one that I could always rely on, one that could never be taken away from me. It was, after all, transformational. It allowed me to believe in myself and my ability to succeed even when circumstances told me not to. It gave me hope. And that is what the Scholarship Foundation does with every scholarship. It truly transforms lives, one scholarship at a time. We are so fortunate to have the opportunity to be a part of that. Especially during this season of gratitude and giving, scholarships that fund educational dreams are truly the gifts that keep on giving for a lifetime. So here I am. Who would have believed that that awkward, shy 8th grade girl could be transformed into a butterfly, could find a way to make a difference every day in the community she calls home and loves so dearly. I am so grateful to that anonymous donor all those years ago. I am so grateful to be doing the work I do. It is a labor of love. I am so grateful that Mike Taube saw something in me and was willing to make that long-term investment in believing in me. On the first day I met Mike, we found that our ways of thinking about the world were pretty simpatico, and especially about education. We completely agreed on punctuation and grammar. His final question to me was, why do you want to work for Montecito Bank and Trust? And I told him I wanted to work somewhere I could make a difference every day. It is my role as the steward of Mike Taube's vision for Montecito Bank and Trust that has allowed me to finally fully recognize my potential and my dreams of making a difference. Montecito Bank and Trust has been funding annual scholarships for more than 20 years, thanks to Mike, and we will continue to make that commitment to build our future leaders. And I'm so grateful that I personally have the opportunity to pay it forward by supporting the Scholarship Foundation with an annual scholarship. C.S. Lewis said it wisely, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And changing the ending is the value of education, and that, my friends, is all of our opportunity. To support the work of the Scholarship Foundation, to help change the endings for Santa Barbara children for many years to come. I wish you and your families a very happy holiday season, a very happy and healthy new year, and I thank you all for what you do every day to make our community simply the very best place on earth. Merry Christmas.